The moment was urgent. Every second counted. Scientists, military leaders, and emergency teams worked together like never before. The alien ships were still above the Atlantic, unmoving, leaking deadly spores into Earth's atmosphere. Hospitals were overflowing. People were getting sicker by the hour. Fear was spreading faster than the disease. Inside a secure laboratory, researchers examined the spores under the most advanced microscopes. They had never seen anything like it. The spores were alive, moving and spreading through the air effortlessly. But then something unexpected happened. A few human test subjects showed resistance. Their immune systems fought the spores in ways the scientists had not predicted. The realization hit them. Humans might have a chance. At the Pentagon, generals met with engineers and physicists. They planned a bold operation. High-altitude drones would carry electromagnetic field generators into the sky. The goal was simple but risky: trap the spores in the upper atmosphere before they could reach populated areas. One mistake, and the spores could spread across the entire continent. The operation began as the sun dipped below the horizon. Drones launched in tight formation, lights blinking, cutting through the dark sky toward the hovering fleet. Fighter jets flew alongside them, not to attack, but to protect. Every movement was precise. Every calculation critical. Above the ocean, the alien ships observed silently. They made no sudden moves. They did not flee. They did not attack. Their massive dark shapes seemed almost aware of the human effort below, as if they were waiting to see what would happen. As the drones reached their positions, electromagnetic fields activated. A low hum filled the air. The particles in the mist began to slow. Slowly, carefully, the fields captured the spores, trapping them high above the clouds. The green mist that had once drifted down toward cities stopped. For the first time, the air below became safer. The world watched with bated breath. Emergency alerts stayed active, but the immediate danger had been contained. Scientists continued to monitor, but hope returned. Above the Earth, the alien fleet shifted slightly, moving farther into the sky. Then another signal came. Mathematical patterns again, simple and universal. Gratitude, understanding. Humanity had acted under pressure. It had thought fast. It had worked together. And in doing so, it had survived a threat from a world beyond the stars. For the first time in modern history, humans realized something important. The fight for survival was not always about weapons. Sometimes it was about speed, teamwork, and intelligence, racing against time itself. The sky above the Atlantic was quiet. Too quiet. The alien fleet hung high above the ocean, massive and dark. They did not move like ships or planes. They drifted silently, like floating mountains under the stars. The green mist that had once drifted toward the Earth was gone. The spores had been trapped in the upper atmosphere by human technology. The immediate danger had passed, but the tension did not. On the ground, military commanders and scientists stared at screens. Satellite images, drone footage, live radar, every detail was watched. Every shift of the fleet, every flicker of light was studied. And then, slowly, the ships began to move. Not toward Earth, not aggressively. They drifted upward, away from the planet, as if leaving carefully, deliberately. Then a signal appeared from one of the ships. Not sound, not words. A pattern. Prime numbers. Repeating sequences. Clean, precise, intelligent, universal. The meaning was clear. The aliens were trying to communicate. In the Pentagon, the president leaned forward in his chair. "They are not attacking," he said quietly. "They never were. They waited. They waited for us to act, for us to understand." Thermal scans confirmed it. thousands of life signs inside the ships. Many weak, many unstable. The aliens were sick. Their ships were floating hospitals. And in their attempt to survive, their sickness had nearly destroyed humanity. A strange understanding filled the room. Humans had stopped the spores without violence. They had acted with intelligence, with care, with precision. The aliens had seen it. They understood it. Above the ocean, the ships moved higher, one by one, into the dark sky. The signals changed. The repeating numbers now formed a simple shape, a star map, a message of thanks, or perhaps guidance. For a long moment, everyone watched silently. Then the last ship disappeared into space, leaving Earth untouched, the air clean, the people safe. No weapons fired. No battles fought. The crisis ended through thought, not force. Through restraint, not anger. Through careful action, not panic. Humanity had survived a threat from another world. And in doing so, it had earned something rare. Respect from the aliens and from itself. The sky was still. The ocean calm. But the memory remained. A night when humans faced the unknown, when fear could have destroyed them, but patience, courage, and wisdom prevailed. For the first time, the world understood. Survival is not only about fighting. It is about thinking, understanding, and knowing when to act and when to wait. That night, Earth passed a silent test. Far above, the fleet continued its journey, leaving not enemies, but a quiet agreement that intelligence, compassion, and careful choices could matter even across the stars. The night sky over the Atlantic was quiet again. The storm of tension, fear, and uncertainty that had gripped humanity for days seemed to fade, replaced by an eerie calm. The massive alien fleet hovered silently, their dark, organic forms glowing faintly with green veins that pulsed softly, like the heartbeat of something alive. The green mist that had once drifted toward the ocean had thinned, almost vanishing. Trapped safely in the upper atmosphere by human technology, F-22 fighter jets lingered in the distance, tiny against the enormity of the alien ships. Their navigation lights blinked in the darkness, showing the scale difference. Pilots circled carefully, not out of aggression, but out of awe and caution. They had witnessed the impossible life from another world, a threat invisible yet deadly, and now a fleet that seemed. Waiting not, then it began. Slowly, deliberately, the ships started to move, upward, away from Earth. The largest ship led the way, and the others followed in perfect formation. No sound, no weapons. Only silence. A signal flashed across the ship's surfaces. Not words, not language, but mathematics. Prime numbers, repeated sequences, precise and simple. A star map appeared in the pattern, glowing faintly against the dark hulls. It was a message. Gratitude, guidance, recognition. Above, the jets followed carefully, watching the fleet ascend higher and higher. The green veins on the ship's surfaces pulsed one last time before fading into the dark void of space. The ocean reflected the last glimmers of the alien glow, shimmering softly under the moonlight. No explosions. No battles. No chaos. The crisis had ended without a single shot fired. Humanity had survived. The alien fleet, sick and desperate, had left Earth untouched. They had not come to conquer, only to survive, and in the process, a silent agreement had formed, a recognition of intelligence, patience, and careful choice. For a long moment, the sky remained still, the ocean calm, the night air heavy with awe. Humans had looked up at the stars and realized something profound. Survival was not always about fighting. It was about thinking, understanding, and knowing when to act and when to wait. And then, far above, the fleet disappeared completely, leaving Earth behind. No enemies, no revenge, only a quiet promise that somewhere in the vast universe, intelligence and restraint could matter, even across the stars. The alien fleet was gone. The green mist had vanished. The ocean was calm, reflecting the moonlight as if nothing had happened. Yet the memory of those days, the fear, the tension, the unknown remained in every mind. Humanity had faced something no one had ever imagined. Something from another world. Something that could have wiped out millions. In the aftermath, scientists and leaders gathered. They studied the fleet, the spores, the signals, and the strange mathematics the aliens had used to communicate. Slowly, the lessons became clear. This encounter had not been about war. It had been about survival for both species. The first lesson was humility. No matter how advanced humanity thought it was, the universe had reminded everyone of its vastness and power. The alien ships were massive, the technology beyond human understanding, and the biological threat invisible yet deadly. Humans had survived, but only because they had acted carefully, intelligently, and with restraint. The second lesson was patience. The aliens had not attacked. They had waited. They had observed. They had communicated in silence. Humanity had learned that sometimes rushing into action can make things worse. In this case, waiting, studying, and planning had saved lives. The third lesson was cooperation. Scientists, military personnel, and leaders had worked together, combining knowledge and skill to contain the spores and protect the world. It was not a single hero or a single weapon that had saved humanity. It was teamwork, precision, and trust. Finally, there was understanding. The aliens had been sick. Their fleet had been a floating quarantine. They had not come to conquer Earth. They had come to survive, and in doing so, they had tested humanity. The lesson was clear. Intelligence, compassion, and careful choices could matter even across the stars. As the world slowly returned to normal, humanity looked up at the night sky with new eyes. The stars no longer felt distant or empty. They felt alive, full of possibilities and dangers. Lessons to be learned. And for the first time, the world understood something profound. Surviving the unknown is not just about weapons, power, or fear. It is about thinking, observing, understanding, and knowing when to act and when to wait. The sky above remained calm, but the lessons of the fleet would remain forever. Humanity had survived its first true encounter with the unknown, and it had learned how to rise, not through force, but through intelligence, patience, and wisdom.